This journey begins thousands of miles from India, the deserts of the East Mediterranean. By the early 7th century, the Christian Roman Empire was beginning to crumble under a wave of attacks. The great classical cities slowly fell into decay. As their libraries and universities were burnt down or destroyed, many of the most important manuscripts were preserved in a remote monastery in the deserts of the Sinai Peninsula to try to save them from the shadows of the approaching Dark Ages. The monastery is called St. Catherine's. The Great Wall of St. Catherine's and its sheer isolation in the rocky desert preserved it from attack for centuries. The monks were able to accumulate one of the greatest collections of icons and illuminated manuscripts in the entire Christian world. For over 1,000 years, many of their treasures remained hidden. When the first European travellers began arriving at the monastery in the 19th century, they found a library of unmatched richness, containing lost works by great classical authors and the oldest extant copies of the New Testament. But I've come to see perhaps the strangest discovery of all, a previously unknown early Christian text, which had long been suppressed as heretical by the Western Church. The manuscript was entitled The Acts of St. Thomas.
Apoteine in avutum centurione, century. Sì, sia in la corsa crona di Dio. The Acts of Thomas. 1,800 years ago.
The manuscript tells the forgotten story of a remarkable missionary journey made all the way to India by one of Jesus' 12 apostles, St. Thomas. It's a story which immediately fascinated me, not least because, unlike most such pious legends, it just could, quite conceivably, be true. From the early church to the modern day, St. Thomas has always had a powerful hold on the religious imagination. He is remembered as Doubting Thomas, the story of how he, alone of the 12 apostles, refused to believe in the resurrection until he felt Christ's wounds, has been endlessly retold by each successive generation. In his questioning, he could almost be a patron saint for our own uncertain 20th century. But the Acts of Thomas suggest that there is far more to the story than one understandable act of doubt. And to follow that story, I went to Jerusalem. While Jerusalem is still one of the most beautiful cities in the world, I always find it one of the most upsetting. As you wander the cobbled streets of the old city, it's impossible not to notice the daily humiliation suffered by the indigenous Palestinians, a constant reminder of the unhealed wounds at the heart of the Middle East. To the apostles in the days immediately after the crucifixion, Jerusalem must have been a terrifying place. Neither the Roman occupiers nor the religious authorities would have had much sympathy for the followers of what they saw as a dead revolutionary and heretic. What would it have been like in the very first days of the early church here in Jerusalem?
I'd imagine that the few disciples of Jesus would have been in a chaotic state. Remember, after the resurrection, they finally realized that Jesus was alive, as he had promised. I mean, they hadn't really believed what he was saying in his lifetime. And that meant a tremendous surge of energy and courage. And immediately they began to spread out. We had a church in Damascus within 18 months of the resurrection. And the project then was to go from Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria to the ends of the world.
What would that early church that St. Thomas knew have been like?
I doubt if we would have recognized it, because to us they would have looked and acted exactly as Jews did. They went to pray in the temple, presumably they offered sacrifice in the temple. The difference was that they confessed Jesus as the Lord. They believed that he was the Messiah, that he had inaugurated the last age of human history. But that was all that separated them from their environment.
And did Thomas' role in that?
I imagine that he would have been one of those that went to the east, so we lost sight of him. The others went as far as Antioch, that was the bridgehead to the west. But we have forgotten in the west, all the great missionaries went to the east.
Today, the Palestinian Christians, with reason, can claim descent